Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you struggle with depression, chronic fatigue, chronic nightmares, anxiety, you're gonna wanna watch this video. I'm gonna be diving into all the different things that I have been doing, lifestyle changes, mindset shifts, new practices, new rituals that I have been practicing in my own life to help me pull through a very long season of depression. I didn't even fully realize I was in it, but it was definitely about 6 months long. And for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I have been feeling so much better. So I'm excited to chat with you all today. This is probably going to be 2 separate videos because there are 9 things I want to talk about. And you all know I'm long-winded. So get your favorite beverage. I am currently drinking sparkling watermelon juice from Trader Joe's. I love their sparkling beverages. They're like so good. Anyway, not sponsored, but grab your drink and maybe a notebook. I don't know. Let's get into it. So if you're new here, I'm Mia. I am a mom and a self-care coach and a mental health advocate. I am so passionate about helping women make themselves a priority without guilt or shame. And I'm here to continue sharing my healing journey with you all because the work is never ending. If you are new here, I have diagnosed PTSD and depression. So depending on how things are going, I can be thriving or surviving. And the last 6 months, I've definitely been barely surviving. And even though I've still been productive and everything, I know how to manage my symptoms. I know how to make things work because I've lived with this for so long, but it was real touch and go there for a minute. And I'm just so grateful to be out of it and to be here sharing with you all what I have learned. So without further ado, let's dive in. And if you like what you see here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. It really supports my channel and I greatly appreciate it. Okay, so the first thing I want to mention, because I think it's one of the most important, and I am not sponsored and I'm not an affiliate and none of those things. I pay for this with my own money. I started seeing a health coach who's also a registered nutritionist and a registered, licensed, professional, and a functional medicine doctor from Parsley Health. I'm gonna link Parsley Health down below because they have been amazing and I've only just begun my work with them. They are a online medical service that specializes in treating people with chronic illnesses. I love this because all my illnesses have been chronic. I have been dealing with them since childhood. And no one has an answer for me. I'm one of those people that has gone to every specialist and doctor you can imagine, and they do a test and it comes back negative and they tell me that all my problems are in my head. And that has been the story of my medical journey. And it has been, as you can imagine, invalidating, frustrating, infuriating. So to discover Parsley Health from a YouTube ad, actually, and to invest in myself, because it's not cheap, but it's not super expensive, but it's like $175 a month. Y'all, that's a big deal for me to spend that kind of money on myself. And I also acknowledge that I'm very lucky and grateful to even have those resources, although my family is making sacrifices to make that happen. It has been so nice to have a healthcare professional who does not invalidate what you're going through, who acknowledges the effects that trauma has on our physical health. A lot of people still think in the medical world that trauma is just like only affecting how you feel, your feelings. And it's like, no, there is a very real physiological nervous system response where those of us who've been through trauma, I have a ACEs score of 8 out of 10. And if you don't know what ACEs are, it is Adverse Childhood Experiences Assessment. And it helps healthcare professionals understand how bad your trauma was. If you have a high ACEs score, you are more likely to have chronic illnesses, you're more likely to die younger, you're more likely to have a whole host of things. I'm not going to completely ruin your day with all those facts today, but to find a doctor that knows this research, that understands it, has been huge because I'm not sitting there as the patient trying to get the doctor to understand that my trauma has something to do with my chronic illnesses and that even though their first test they did came back negative, to please dig deeper. I'm not having to beg my medical team to please do the research. Like the functional medicine doctor and the health coach at Parsley Health understand it. In fact, in the questionnaire they asked, which the questionnaire took me like a week to fill out, y'all, was so long and extensive, they asked a lot of questions about my past traumatic history. When I came into the appointment, they understood where I was coming from. There was just nothing but validation and support. I'm having a really massive lab work done, blood work done. They're going to be testing for a lot of things that typical primary care physicians do not check for. And one of the major things we focused on was my PMDD. And I know y'all, I'm like over here saying, I have PTSD, I have depression, I have anxiety. I do have all these things. And honestly, they're all connected. PMDD is also just connected to having all of these things. And if you don't know what PMDD is, it is basically really, really severe PMS where your hormones drop so much and you become super depressed and super anxious for like half the month. So for half of every month, for most of my life since I became a cycling human at 15, I have been struggling with PMDD. So we are doing lab testing to help with PMDD. I am supplementing now with L-theanine and magnesium glycinate, which are helping me with calming my nerves. And I take I take L-theanine in the morning, and I take magnesium glycinate before bed. And those tiny shifts have been helping so much. But I have to tell you this, before I even tried the supplements, once I had my first call with them, having a healthcare professional who was like, yep, I treat people with PMDD. I know exactly what causes it, or not even like exactly, but she was listening to me, to the causes that are present in my life. And she gave me a plan. And even though I hadn't even done the blood work yet, even though I hadn't started supplementing, I felt a massive weight lifted off my body. I felt like I could breathe again. And I felt hope for the first time in 6 months, because I felt that there was somebody else outside of me who was going to be helping me be well, who's going to help me get well, so that I'm not like imprisoned by this horrible PMDD that it jacks up. My nightmares get worse when I'm in that time of the month. So when I am PMSing and on my period and my PMDD is really bad, my nightmares get worse. So it's all connected. And to hear somebody who knows what they're doing, who's in my corner, who's going to help me, I started experiencing the healing then. I actually started to sleep well that week, before I started supplementing, before I did anything. So I just think that we seriously undervalue validation. Like, we seriously undervalue having somebody say, I'm going to help you. Like, I'm going to figure this out. We're going to figure this out together. Because I started to feel better just hearing those words and being given a plan. And that's the beauty of having somebody that's the beauty of getting help. And that's, ever since I had that, I felt a physical difference, y'all. After 6 months of being depressed, I felt a physical change in my mood, in my outlook on the future. I started to sleep better that week. And I know I'm really going on about them, and they are not paying me to say this, but I would love to partner with you, Parsley Health. I know I have a small audience, but we are a small but mighty and passionate crew over here about mental health and being well. Yeah, it just made me realize, because I'm one of those people too, I'm like, oh, I want tips and practical this and that. And I felt so much better just being validated. So being validated and being given a plan, having hope for the future, all really good things, all really important. Because how we feel about our futures also affects our health. And I think we need to take our emotions into consideration more often when we talk about healing and when we think about what we need for healing. So that really helped with my depression, helped with my mood, helped with my sleep. And I'm still on the journey with them. My labs are scheduled for next week, and I'm really excited about that. My work with a health coach who's a nutritionist was also amazing. I had a session with her, and I eat super healthy. I've been working on shifting my diet this entire year of 2021, and I'm going to share with you an entire video just on how I managed to shift that, what book was the most helpful, because there's so much information out there. But so the nutritionist was like, okay, all those things are good. But she really helped me dial in on the fact that when I am PMSing, to not eat certain foods that would make me feel worse, like deep fried foods and foods that are really like foods high in sugar. She said your body is really craving fats during that time, and you're really craving sugar during that time. So you need to make sure that you have something in the house that you can eat when that craving hits you that's not going to make you crash, that's not going to make you feel worse. And so I started to make cowboy cookies, and I would love to share the recipe with you in like a what I eat in a day video. But now every month I make cowboy cookies. I make a massive batch of cowboy cookies, which are basically like high carb cookies but gluten free. I make them gluten-free, so I'm not making myself sick eating gluten. And I put a ton of nuts and seeds. So pumpkin seeds, almonds, walnuts. There's some sugar in it, but not too much. And there's dark chocolate chips, which I love, which also has some fat in there, and nuts and seeds have fat. So it's like I have them ready to go so that when my PMDD hits and my PMS and my period comes, I have something to satisfy those cravings that's not going to result in my whole day going left because I ate a donut. So I know that sounds so small, but it really has been such an amazing act of self-love that has been helping me to not have the worst time ever when I am having PMDD. On Sundays, I make a huge batch of Cowboy cookies, and it's amazing. And I will link the recipe that I use. It's by Pickup Limes, but it's Pickup Limes as a vegan version, and I just make it not vegan. I use butter and things like that. So, but I'll link that because it's a great recipe. And so yeah, my health coach, just like having somebody say like, you definitely need to make sure you're making good choices when you're PMSing, because let me tell you, I'm not making good choices when I'm PMSing because I'm usually having nightmares and I'm tired. And she also gave me this bomb tip that I'm going to pass on to you. And it's going to sound super simple, but I want you to try it. She said you need to be eating 2 tablespoons of flax a day when you are PMSing and on your period. She said flax seed binds with estrogen, which spikes during that time and makes you, have anxiety and causes you to not sleep well. She said your estrogen spikes, and when you eat more flax binds with the estrogen and takes it out of your body. I was mind blown, okay? I was casually eating flax, non-committed with flax. It's not that exciting. Health food is not exciting, okay? Oh my word, it's been working for real. Like after my whole life, since becoming a cycling person at 15, having PMDD, I have started to eat 2 tablespoons of flax. I put it in salad dressing. I put it in yogurt. I put it in smoothie. I try to have a smoothie every morning because, again, I don't like eating healthy. So if I can just get it all in one smoothie that tastes kind of like strawberries, we're good. I have been sleeping better. I have been feeling calmer. I just have been feeling better. Can you tell all this energy that I have? I'm really feeling good. So yeah, I know that sounds really small, but that's what my health coach says. And listen, it's been working. So I wanted to pass that on to you. And this leads me to my next point. You guys have been hearing me talk about how I've been noticing I feel better when I have flax. How do I know that these things are connected? Well, because I track my stuff, and I don't enjoy tracking. I'm not a person that loves to painstakingly track her life. But when you start going to doctors and you start spending a lot of money on copays and coinsurance and deductibles, and you go to these appointments, which are very expensive, and they're like, so when was the last time that this happened? And when was the last time that that happened? And when did you eat this? And did you notice a correlation between when you did this and that? If you don't have data to bring to these appointments, the doctor can't help you as well as they could if you did have data. So I learned back when I started seeing a psychiatrist and taking antidepressants 2 years ago, how vital data is, especially when it comes to your mental health, because you could have 2 weeks of feeling so depressed, and then you go into your psychiatrist appointment and you're having a good day, and they're like, how are you doing? You're like, I'm doing good. And they're like, okay, what's the problem? And you're like, I don't know, I'm feeling really good right now. I don't really know when I started feeling good or when the feeling bad went away. And I learned back in 2019 when I started taking antidepressants that tracking how you feel and having a way to do that is super important. So right now I use the Natural Cycles app. I was an affiliate with them, but I don't know if that expired or something, but I will still promote them. I think their service is great. I will see if there's a refer a friend discount code or something that I could give you, and I'll put that in the description. But every morning I wake up, I take my temperature, plug it into my Natural Cycles app, so that I know where I'm at in my cycle, because then I know, oh, PMS is coming. It's time to prep for that. It's time to add on more support in the PMS system. So I'm going to talk about what I do for support other than Cowboy cookies, but it's so helpful as a woman, as a cycling person, to know where you are with your cycle. It's so helpful. It's just it's data you need, okay? It's data you need. Don't freak out about it being perfect, because they do say exclude your temperature if you didn't sleep right. And it's my kids wake up in the middle of the night. I don't always sleep right, but I'm forget about it. It's better than nothing. So I put my temperature in, and then they have a little note section where you can put you can hit an emoji, tap on an emoji, and describe how you feel. And in the note section, I rate my sleep. out of 10, 10 being the best, 0 being the worst. And then I also rate my jaw pain because I clench my jaw really badly when I'm having a really bad nightmare. And that just affects my whole day. I wake up with intense face and neck pain, a headache, I'm light sensitive, I'm dizzy, I can't exercise, I can barely walk, I can barely stand. It's a whole thing. So see how all this is connected? When I don't have nightmares, I don't clench my jaw. And then I'm able to get out of bed in the morning. It's like a whole thing. So managing my stress, managing my anxiety, it has become like the most important thing in my life. It has become the most important thing, hands down. It affects the way that I mother. It affects the way that I show up as a wife in my marriage. It affects the way that I show up for work. It affects my creativity. It affects my happiness, my ability to experience the world. We really need to start prioritizing our mental health. I know it feels weird and selfish sometimes to do it because our parents' generation literally didn't even talk about mental health. But listen, can we just all agree that that ends with us? Because it's toxic and it's not helpful. We know it's not helpful to them. Why are we going to do it to ourselves? That was a tangent, but I just had to say, like, none of this change would have been happening if I just decided to continue functioning from the paradigm that my parents had of like, grin and bear it, keep going, work harder, and muscle through it. Because listen, I've tried that and it broke me multiple times. So I'm just so grateful to still be here and to even be on this journey. And honestly, all of these tips and things I'm giving you, none of it matters if you don't really believe that you're worth figuring it out, that you're worth not giving up on yourself. Y'all, that is like the foundation. You know what? I'm just gonna talk about it now. It was like the last thing I wrote because it was the most important, but this video is probably not gonna be, I'm not probably gonna need to split it into 2 parts. So I just wanna like tangent here for a minute and tell you that I was really struggling with some self-loathing over this depressive episode. I just started to feel very angry and upset with myself that I couldn't take care of my family in the way that I wanted. Don't worry, my kids were taken care of. My husband is full-time stay-at-home parent right now. So really lucky in that situation. And I was just angry that I couldn't show up for my business and my creativity the way that I usually do. I used to post on YouTube every week. And if you've probably noticed that I haven't been doing that, it's because I've been struggling with my health, and the little bit of energy I did have went to my clients. I run a group coaching program. You might have heard me talk about it. It's called No Longer Last. And the little bit of energy I had left, I was creating classes for them, reflection guides. I host a monthly coaching call. So it was like I had to be really selective about what I did. And I am somebody that's used to working a lot and being really dialed into my creativity. And so depression stole that from me. And I started to, instead of being mad at the depression, I started being mad at myself. Instead of hating the depression, I started to hate myself. And that did not motivate me to get help. I started to feel hopeless. The one thing I did do was I went to a new psychiatrist and I tried to get on some meds for my sleep, and I went on so many different meds that she was like, these are really strong meds. This is definitely going to work. And then it didn't work. And she's like, okay, let's double the dose. This is definitely going to work. And then that didn't work either. And so I want to be upfront about that as well, that I'm actually not on psychiatric medication right now. I'm not against psychiatric medication. I think they're really great if you're in a crisis. Like when I was going through postpartum depression and anxiety, psychiatric meds did save my life. Like that is not an exaggeration. I was really not doing well, but I don't think they're a long-term solution. And I also think that we have to take leadership and ownership of our healing journeys because everyone's root cause is different. And mental health research is just so, I'm not a researcher, so I don't want to speak out of turn here, but from what I know, it's not nearly as researched with the same level of breadth and understanding as other fields in the medical world. So we have a lot to learn. And so it's just so important that we take initiative to be leaders and advocates in our own healing. That's the tangent I want to drive home here, that like I only started making all of these changes when I decided I was going to stop hating myself for struggling and I was going to start loving myself through the struggle. I was going to start showing myself self-compassion. And I teach this all the time in my support group. That doesn't mean I don't fall off of the wagon. It's easy for me now to have self-compassion for myself. Like if my workout wasn't as good as I wanted, or if I like made a mistake or something like in parenting and whatever. But that depression going on for as long as it did, I started to just lose the ability to be compassionate with myself, and I started to really be mean to myself. And so this all really started with me deciding that when a mean, nasty thought came up, I was going to respond to that thought with something loving, compassionate, and understanding. And that started to shift how I saw myself. I started to reconnect with the fact that I am worthy of healing. I'm worthy of feeling really good. I'm worthy of taking care of myself, and so are you. Start to talk to yourself that way. It's going to be really hard to advocate for yourself. It's going to be really hard to find what works for your healing journey, because if you don't believe that you're worth being well, if you feel like you're worthless, which depression can make us feel, it's going to be so hard to continue on. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying that to hopefully motivate you to prioritize something as intangible as self-compassion. Because I know we all love to hear like, oh, okay, I'm going to put flax in my stuff. I'm going to go reach out to a functional medicine doctor. I'm going to whatever. But I feel like we can so easily, like I've done all this stuff before and I fall off the bandwagon. I stopped doing it because at the end of the day, if you don't believe that you're worthy of love and help and support, you're not going to keep up with it, right? Like I remember I would schedule appointments with doctors and therapists and acupuncturists, and then I would go once and cancel because I didn't believe I was worth spending the money on myself. Even if you go through a couple weeks of maybe eating a little bit healthier, but if you fall off the bandwagon, I would encourage you that instead of blaming it on like lack of time management or lack of trying, I would encourage you to look within and go, am I struggling with feeling worthy? Do I feel worthless? Am I struggling with my self-image, my self-worth? Because that's the breakthrough I had these last 6 months. That is the breakthrough that I'm so glad I had, which was that I've done so much inner work on myself and self-love work on myself. However, the trigger that I had and like all the stuff I'm doing processing my trauma, I realized the last 6 months were about the fact that the younger version of me, the little Mia inner child that I have, we all have an inner child, y'all. She still feels worthless. The abuse that she went through, the abuse that I went through made me feel so worthless and unseen and like a problem and a burden and just disgusting. That version of me is still inside, and she sometimes runs the show and she sometimes says, cancel that acupuncture appointment. I know it made you feel good, but you're not worth the money. You can just do something else, and don't sign up for that functional medicine doctor and just grin and bear it. Just try harder. Just hunker down. Those aren't good decisions to be making when you're suffering and struggling. All helpers need helpers. All helpers need helpers. Everyone is a helper and everybody needs a helper, and it's okay to get help. Sometimes I think we try to DIY too many things in our lives. Sometimes I think we try to just figure it out, and then we sit in suffering for much longer than we need to because we want to figure it all out and we don't want to ask for help and we don't want to spend money on getting help. As somebody who grew up with barely any money being spent on me, I understand it can feel very triggering to do that for yourself, but the healing that I've been experiencing these last 6 months, I think, is due to the fact that I finally made the connection that the little Mia inside of me feels worthless, and I need to make her understand I'm not going to abandon you anymore. I'm not going to neglect you anymore. I'm not going to be cheap with you anymore. I'm not going to tell you that you need to just figure it out. You need to try harder. I'm going to get you help. You're a helper. I'm a helper. You're a helper. I'm raising kids, I'm taking care of my family, I'm working, I help others online, and we all deserve help. We don't have to all figure it out ourselves. We don't have to DIY everything. And I'm really glad I went on this tangent actually, because sometimes I feel like in the YouTube space, there's a lot of pressure for people like me, coaches, to just come out here and just throw you with tips. And it's tips are great, but I just want you to know that it all starts with how you see yourself and what you believe you deserve. If you made it this far, I'm really glad, because that's actually the most important, because it's that mindset that's going to help you to seek out the support that you need and to stick with it. Because one of the things that I do a lot is once I find something that works, I stop doing it because I'm scared to spend the money or scared to invest the time, and I believe that the time is better spent working or doing something for my family. And it's just sometimes we talk ourselves out of even spending time on ourselves because we feel like it's better spent working, it's better spent cleaning, it's better spent taking care of something else. It's just you belong to you, okay? You belong to you first. That was a long tangent, but that was one of my tips, self-compassion. It's down there, see? So that was one. Sign up for functional medicine doctor from Parsley Health. do hear about scams with some functional medicine doctors that make people pay thousands in supplements. Like, obviously do your research. Like, Parsley Health made me feel really good in terms of like credibility and their process and stuff. And I don't even think they have doctors in every state, but you know, just check them out. I'll link them below. Flax seeds, self-compassion, have a mindset of I'm going to take leadership for my healing and I'm worthy and deserving of love, care, and help and support. You are. I think I'm going to do one more and then we're going to do the rest in another video, okay? Oh, I also shared with you that I track. It's so important to track your cycle, because then you know when you're PMSing, you know when your period's coming up, you can plan for it. You can make sure that you have Cowboy cookies or healthy fats, healthy snacks. Like, I'm really mindful of my cravings at that time, and I'm making sure I'm bringing in avocados and nuts and seeds and healthy protein and seafood, so that I'm not eating hamburgers, because I love a good burger, but during PMS, it's just not a good idea. So please track your cycle. It's a great thing to do for yourself. And if you're not tracking your cycle, find a way to track your sleep if that's something you struggle with, or even your energy. Like, I track like, oh, today, like my fatigue was like, well, I'll track my energy. So energy is like, good energy is 10 out of 10. Like, if I'm feeling really good, and then extreme fatigue is a 0. So like, you know, figure out the categories of things that you need to track that. So that would be a really great idea. I'm going to give you one more tip that's been really helping me with my sleep. I started back up my ritual of taking a long, warm bath every night with Epsom salts and lavender. So I know some people are like, OMG, what's with the baths? Can we get over the self-care and baths thing? No, I can't get over it, because when I started my self-care journey, baths were the only thing accessible to me. I couldn't afford a sitter. My husband was traveling for work all the time. Once I put my kids to bed, I could plug the tub, fill it up, and I looked forward to that bath like you can't even believe. Once I turned that dishwasher on, I stacked the rest of the dishes in the sink. I decided this is my time to rest my bones, and I am not going to sit here and wash all these dishes by hand, because perfectionism can kick it to the curb. But basically, I would sit in the bath for 45 minutes, sometimes longer. And Epsom salts is really great for muscle aches and pains. It's actually even great for digestion. And of course, lavender essential oils or whatever oils you like can do aromatherapy and help you feel calm. But more than anything, it was just about the pause in my day. It was about coming back to myself. It was about belonging to myself, because what I was doing before was I was just going all day long, cooking, cleaning, and caring for everyone else. And then I started to feel exhausted. I stopped sleeping well. I started to feel depressed. I started to feel anxious when I woke up, because I realized, oh my God, I have to do it all over again. I hate this. And then you become miserable because you literally don't have anything that's just for you. And so this nightly bath that required that I stop being a perfectionist about keeping a home that looks whatever, and I started prioritizing what I needed, which was a break. And this bath ended up being stimulating and rejuvenating for my body, for my mind, listening to books that inspired me, that made me feel seen, hearing other people's stories, and just like having that pause, and also just being like, wow, Mia, you did that. You did that for yourself. You overcame your perfectionism of having to have a perfectly clean kitchen, and you decided that you were worth taking this time where you're not being productive. You're not working, you're not cleaning, you're not cooking, you're not meal prepping, you're not doing anything. You're just taking care of yourself, and wow, look how good you feel. And then I started waking up and feeling good about the day, feeling like I can tackle this, because I ended each night taking care of myself, filling myself back up, so that I wasn't approaching the next day from a place of depletion. I was approaching the next day with energy and strength. Why is this now listed on this if I'm telling you I've always had this practice? Well, because I stopped taking a bath every night about 8 months ago or more during the pandemic. I just started to get really stressed out. I went from being a stay-at-home mom to a full-time working mom working at a job, and I slowly started chipping away at the things that were just for me, because I started to feel overwhelmed with all of my responsibilities. And so I just want to say that sometimes we find things that work and then we still stop doing them because we don't take enough pauses out of our busy lives to reassess and go, what do I need here? How am I doing? We don't check in with ourselves. I finally brought it back in, and was actually at the recommendation of my health coach from Parsley Health, who was like, you should bring that back in because it can also be very calming to your nervous system and help prepare you for bed. And if you take a really warm or hot bath, it actually helps your internal body temperature to get lower, which also can prime your brain for sleep and help your body go into sleep. So there's a lot of health benefits to taking baths. So maybe the social media self-care fad of taking bath is not bad. It's not bad. It's been great. It's really accessible and it's practically free. Bringing the baths back in has been a great grounding nightly ritual. I do it 4 times a week, I would say, maybe less or more. But the point is I still do it. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be every night. Some days it's 40 minutes. Some days it's 20 minutes. It's all about doing the best you can with the time, energy, and resources you have. So that is half the tips, y'all. Half the tips. There's more. It's not going to be one thing. Although I do feel like this video was basically an unpaid ad for Parsley Health. Again, Parsley Health, I would love to work with you. But truly, the experience I've had with them has been so great. I wanted to share about them with you all because I'm not going to keep anything a secret because I want a brand deal or something like that. Like, this has been really helping me. I want you to get that help as well. And if you can't afford to sign up for Parsley Health or they're not in your state or country or whatever, I hope that the rest of the tips that I shared in this video about self-compassion and tracking your cycle and taking a bath can also be of support and help to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you making it to the end. Comment below if any of these tips resonated with you, if you're gonna try any of them, or if there's anything that helps you sleep well. Like, that helps the community when we share what's working for us. But yeah, subscribe and I will see you in the next video. In the meantime, take good care of yourself. You are worthy, you are deserving, you have full permission to actually enjoy your life and to be well and to get healing. I just wish you nothing but health and happiness. All right, love y'all. Bye.
Have you gotten your weekly wellness check-in yet? The weekly wellness check-in is a beautifully designed planner and reflection guide all in one page that will help you to have a pause in your busy life to check in on how you're doing mentally, physically, and spiritually. And it also has a section for you to brainstorm ways that you can start to take care of yourself. And then another section where you can identify just one action that you're going to take this week to take care of yourself. I promise you, even though it can seem intimidating at first to sit down and just take a moment for yourself, this is the best way to get started on your self-care journey, to just figure out what it is that's even going on in your life and what are the ways that you can take care of yourself slowly and sustainably. I am making this available to you completely for free. This is a $10 product in my shop, but I wanted to provide it to my audience here on YouTube as a gift to say thank you for your support. Thank you for watching my videos and for subscribing to my YouTube channel. So go ahead and go to miahemstad.com/wellness to grab your planner for free today.